I quit manure. This fail soil trick grows 100 times better harvests. If you've been gardening long enough, you've probably been told the same thing over and over again. Just add more manure. I believed it for years. I hauled it in, aged it, mixed it, waited for it to mellow, and still ended up with beds that looked rich but grew weak, watery crops. That frustration is exactly why I quit manure altogether. What replaced it wasn't fancy, expensive, or trendy. It was a simple soil shift that turned tired beds into living engines, and the harvest difference was so dramatic it felt like cheating. Let me walk you through what actually fixed my soil and why it works far better than manure ever did. Manure isn't evil, but it's often misunderstood. Most gardeners, well, they use it as a nutrient source when really the soil problems are biological, not nutritional. Manure actually dumps nitrogen, phosphorus, and salts into the ground much faster than soil life can process them. In warm climates especially, that nitrogen just flashes off or leaches out before roots ever get a chance to touch it. What's left behind, unfortunately, is compacted soil with poor aggregation and sluggish microbial activity. And that's why you see lush leaves early on, followed by stalling growth, pest pressure, and, well, disappointing yields. The soil might look dark, but honestly, it isn't alive. So plants don't feed on manure directly. They actually feed on what microbes make available, and manure alone doesn't build a stable microbial system. The real problem with failed soil is, well, carbon starvation. When soil fails, it's almost always lacking usable carbon. Microbes don't thrive on nutrients, they thrive on energy. Carbon is their fuel. Manure provides nutrients, but, very little long-lasting carbon structure. Once the fast nitrogen spike burns through, microbes crash and the soil becomes pretty much inert again. That's why adding more manure feels like, well, chasing your tail every season. The solution isn't more inputs, it's feeding soil life consistently with the right form of carbon, so biology stays active all year. The trick that replaced manure is feeding microbes first, not plants. What finally worked was shifting to carbon-based soil feeding using decomposed plant matter, fungal-friendly inputs, and small repeated microbial meals. So instead of just dumping manure once or twice a year, I started building these soil layers that microbes could, slowly consume over time. The core of this system is really mature compost, leaf mold, and then some simple carbohydrate activators. For a standard raised bed, I use a ratio of roughly 2 parts finished compost to 1 part native soil, and then I top it off with a 3 to 5 centimeter layer of shredded leaves or straw. This creates a carbon-rich buffer that microbes colonize immediately. Why fungi matter more than manure ever will. Most vegetables perform best in soil with active fungal networks, not bacteria-dominated manure soil. Fungi move nutrients laterally, store moisture and buffer plants against stress. Manure-heavy soil favors fast bacteria that burn out quickly. Carbon-rich mulches and leaf-based compost favor fungi. When I stopped tilling manure in and started leaving carbon on the surface, fungal strands appeared within weeks. Crops rooted deeper, needed less water, and, honestly, handled heat better. That alone doubled yields before I changed anything else. How simple carbohydrates wake dead soil fast. This is where the fail soil trick surprises people. Microbes need quick energy to multiply before they can process complex carbon. Once every 2 to 3 weeks, I apply a mild carbohydrate drench. 1 tablespoon of unsulfured molasses or raw sugar dissolved in 4 liters of water is enough for 10 square meters of bed space. This isn't fertilizer, it's microbial coffee. Applied to moist soil in the early morning, it, jumpstarts microbial reproduction without causing nutrient spikes. Within just a few days, soil smells sweet and earthy instead of sour or flat. So, here's how you can apply this system step by step without, overthinking it. First, to start by stopping manure applications entirely for 1 season. Next, loosen the soil lightly if it's compacted, but make sure to avoid deep tilling. Add mature compost at a thickness of 5 to 8 centimeters and water it in thoroughly. Add mature compost at a thickness of 5 to 8 centimeters and water it in thoroughly. Cover that compost with a carbon mulch like shredded leaves, dry grass or straw. So you want to keep the mulch loose, not packed. Every 2 to 3 weeks during active growth, just apply the mild carbohydrate drench. Plant directly through the mulch, disturbing it as little as possible. So roots will actually follow microbial pathways downward, and, soil structure will improve naturally without any need for mechanical work. Real harvest differences. Well, these are what you can expect within just 1 season. In my own beds, tomatoes went from producing thin vines and cracked fruit to, honestly, thick stems and steady fruit sets. Leafy greens stopped bolting early because, moisture stayed consistent below the surface. Root crops like carrots and beets grew straighter since the soil aggregated instead of compacting. Yields didn't just increase, quality improved as well. Flavor intensified, storage life extended, and pest pressure dropped because plants were no longer stressed. Why this works year after year instead of burning out soil? The beauty of this approach is that it compounds. Carbon feeds microbes, microbes build structure, structure holds water and nutrients, and plants feed microbes through root exudates. That loop keeps soil productive without constant outside inputs. Manure forces growth, carbon biology sustains it. Once you see beds improve every season instead of declining, there's no going back. So the shortcut here as well, quitting manure and just letting the soil do the heavy lifting. I didn't quit manure to be extreme. I quit because honestly my soil told me to. When you stop forcing nutrients and start building biology, you'll find that gardens become easier, not harder. Watering decreases, pests fade away, and harvests just multiply, without all that exhaustion. That's the shortcut most gardeners never hear about, simply because it isn't sold in bags. If this guide helped you rethink soil the way it changed mine, make sure you subscribe to GardenGuru for more, real-world growing shortcuts that actually work. Share this with a fellow gardener who's still stuck in the manure cycle, and let's grow better harvests together by fixing soil the right way.